I drop the socket. Alright, time we're going to start doing the spark plugs, which on Subarus is the only thing that's bad about them for maintenance, because you got to get down in there and down into here. So normally what you do is you remove the battery, and I can see I actually have a little bit of corrosion on that. So we're going to go ahead and remove this, get this all cleaned up, and then we're going to remove the air box and the hose coming back. So I'm going to get this out right now, and then we'll be back. Okay, I got the battery out, I went through, cleaned everything up. Actually, I have the battery tray over here. It's already been cleaned up. So you probably don't have to go that in depth, but I just wanted to. And you can see down here, right there is one coil pack. And it's hard to get in there to see. Down there's the other coil pack. So I gotta get these bolts off of that so I can remove the coil pack, and then we can get to the plugs. Alright, I was trying to do it without taking out this metal battery, the whole retainer part, but this way it's so much easier. I can actually reach into things, so I just went ahead and took it out. The only thing I can see is going to be tight is back here between the rail. That's where it's going to get a little tight. Alright, first plug is out. You can see they were due. So it was definitely due. You can see a little buildup there. But alright, so that one's out. Now I'm going to verify the gap on the new ones and get that one put in, then we'll move back to the next one. Yeah, and always check your plugs, because I actually went to this one, and they're supposed to be, for Subaru, for this model and engine, it's supposed to be 40.04. But I found these were actually, this one was 0.03. So actually I widened the gap, and now we're going to go ahead and reinstall it back in here. What I'd recommend too is lay your stuff out so you know what goes with what. Like this, I know goes with the coil pack, but from where that plug was, this is the battery tray. The other parts I have laid out over here is, this is the other battery for the battery hold down. So it just makes it a little bit easier. And if you don't have like a swivel socket kind of thing like this, I don't know how you would do this with a Subaru, because these are almost impossible. So what I have is this little kit that I got here. You can see it actually has all the different sizes, and then 14 is the one you use for the plugs. Most of the other things on this, you know, as far as getting in here, the bolts to take the metal tray out were 14. The ones on the coil pack are 10 millimeter. So we're gonna go ahead and get that one back in now, and we'll work on that other coil pack in the back there. All right, so everything I found on the Subaru things, these, you know, this is the 2.5 engine. So you want to torque to 13.3 foot-pounds. So just make sure you don't over-torque them, since these are aluminum heads. You don't want to strip them out, and then you're going to be going to very expensive repairs. So we went ahead and set the torque wrench. So I can't really film it down in there, but we're going to go ahead and get that one torqued, then we'll move back to the next one. And if any of you are wondering how to get the back plugs, this is the setup that I come up with. I got this, basically this wobble socket, then we got this universal one. So between those, I can get in there, get it angled, so that way I can get this really long extension from here all the way down into it to put it, so that way I can torque it down right. It is a pain in the ass. I do recommend, you know, wiping off your frame rail down here before you even start all this, or your hands will end up really black. And before you go ahead and put your boots back on over the plugs here, you know, make sure, get yourself some dielectric grease to help seal it, so when you put that on, so like this one here, you can see it even prevents spark plug boot damage. So those parts are very expensive to go over top there. It's not like the old wires, so make sure you protect it. All right, this side's all back together. I got these bolts back in. Like I said, these two, they're 10 millimeter. Once you get the dielectric grease at the end of the tube, basically you just put it on here, you'll hear a little, almost like a little pop sound when you get these pushed back in all the way, right? So once you get those in, get your threads, and always start these by hand before you torque these. All right, now we're gonna move over to the other side. So as you can see, I do have to remove a bunch of things. Like this whole thing's gonna come off. This is gonna come off, because when I take this off, I'm gonna go ahead and change the air filter since I have it off. But to get this off, we're going to come all the way up to here, take this whole piece off so I don't have to fight with it when we're down inside there. So I'm going to go ahead and get that screw off and then get the rest of this off, and I'll be back. Make sure to unplug your map sensors. All right, I already got this loose. You can see this was actually 8mm of mine. I almost forgot to tell you guys too about take this out. There's actually a little, one of those plastic push pins. You can just use a flat tip, pop it up. But you can see I already got the mass airflow sensor disconnected. So now it's just a matter of getting all this out. But I need 2 hands for that. I got one more thing. There's a breather hose down here. So I need to get a pair of pliers, squeeze this, pull this off, and then we can get the whole thing out. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And another thing, while you have this off, it's good to go ahead and get yourself something so you can look inside there and see, you know, how clean or dirty it is. So, and if it's dirty, then you can, you know, plan on getting that cleaned out. But if not, like that one actually looks really good. So we're just gonna go ahead and put everything back together afterwards and we'll be good. And also don't forget to check underneath where your filter is, down inside here, to make sure nothing's living in there, especially if your vehicle's been parked for a long time. All right, now that that's all out, you can kind of see what we're working with here. You can see the coil packs down here. So we got one coil pack here and the other one's right there. So now that that's out, it's very easy to get into those. This is the easier side. I saved this for last because I know the other side is a pain in the ass. All right, the way I usually do these is I'll break it loose with the ratchet. Then I'll just put the socket on it like that. So then you can just grab a hold of this, which you can't see me doing, and basically just turn it. And it's much easier turning by hand after you broke it free. And I dropped the socket, but you can see the bolt's still sitting there. So you can literally just get a hold of the bolt and take her out. And in the socket, I'll get my little extension thing that I keep hanging right here when I'm working, because this is magnetic. So if I drop something down inside, I can literally just hook it and pick it back up. So let me go fishing for that and I'll get the other pack off too. All right, went ahead and got the other one off too. The socket was just laying on the dust shield underneath, so you just tap it underneath and you can hear where it is and just put your fingers up around behind and grab it. So now I just gotta take these off, which you can see how easily that just popped off. And then pretty much what I do with these, I don't disconnect it. I just put it up out of the way. Just make sure not to put tension on your plug. You don't want to damage these because these are very expensive. And then I'll take the other one and put it there too. And remember which one goes where. And then I'll go ahead and start dealing with the plugs. Okay. Now the way I always do these is I'll take this one off first, then that one. Then this one will go back on first, then that one. So when I put them up here, you can see this one is the first one to go back, which goes in there. Then the other one, which is longer, comes up here. And then this one we'll go ahead and put back up. That goes in the front. This one goes in the back one. So now we'll go ahead and get the plugs out. You can see with the way I do my contraption there that it actually lines up pretty easy. So you can get a wrench in here pretty easy and straight to get your plugs in and out. So we're gonna go ahead and get this one out now. All right, so we went ahead and broke them all free. This one and the back one. Now we can just do the same thing again. Take it out the rest of the way by hand. And when you put them back in, you definitely want to put them in by hand. That way you can kind of feel, you'll feel if you're going right or if it's going wrong. Because you definitely don't want to cross thread these. And when you come out, there's your plug. Now we're going to put that one down. Go ahead back in, get the next one. So I'll just get the socket in there, so that way I got something to hold on to and basically twist it out. All right, and I'll be back soon to get this one out. All right, both plugs are out. They don't seem too bad for having about 45,000 miles on them, but we're gonna be taking a long trip, so it's time to go ahead and just change them out. So we're going with, we still do have NGK, but we're going with the iridium instead of these other, I think were these copper tops? I don't remember, but these are the other NGKs. So now we just want to check the last two, make sure they are gapped properly before we put them back in. And something I didn't show is something I like about these plugs is literally, there's a magnet inside this. So when I put this in there, you can hear it actually pull it up in there so it doesn't fall out. So these are very useful when you're trying to get down inside and get them up in. But all right, so I got the one in. You can't see it, but the front one's in. I just got to do the back one. Like I said before, I can't stress enough to put these in by hand so you can feel them go in. If you're actually taking your time, you can feel when you actually get the spark plug in there and touch the threads. The one thing I didn't show that I really should have, it's actually another little thing that I always do, is before I take the plugs out, I'll pull the boot off and I'll actually use the air compressor and put the nozzle down here and actually give a little blast. So anything that's loose around the plugs will get blown out before you changing plugs. That way you don't want any dirt getting down in your cylinder walls and scarring them up or causing damage. But all right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this one tightened in the rest of the way, and then we're gonna go ahead and get the torque wrench in here. All right, this might look a little ridiculous, but you know what? It makes it easier so I'm not racking my hands on anything. But now we're just gonna go ahead and tighten this down until we get our little ticks. But I gotta put the phone down so I can hold this steady. All right, so I've been tightening, and then here you can hear, that's when you know you got it set. So like I said, this is 13.3 foot-pounds is what we got this set to. So now we're gonna go ahead and do the front one. All right, all done. Now we just gotta get the boots put back on. Remember, like I said, you wanna put some dielectric grease around it. So what I usually do is I'll just put a little bit all the way around like that. And then when I slide it over the spark plug, it'll slide back up in and coat everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and do these two. All right, so we're going ahead and we're pushing this in. And I can feel when it hit bottom there. So that one's in. Now we'll get the next one, get the grease on, and put that one in. All right, you can see I got the grease on that one. Okay, now we got those back in. We've already checked, make sure the manifold's clear. We also want to look, make sure there's nothing down in here that needs to get cleaned out of the air box before we put the new filter in. So we'll grab the new filter and I'll be right back. All right, you can see here's the old filter and the new one. So you can see definitely there is a big color difference. And this is the filter that fits this. So this is the one we're going with. The other one was after probably about 10,000 miles because it's gone through 2 oil changes now. So, and she's due for another change here in a little bit. And you can probably tell that I went ahead and I did clean up the air piping and some of the engine bay because it's open. I might as well do it. But now we go ahead and get your filter. And it just goes down inside that box like that. And then this is going to fit back over top, and you can see there's a groove there and a groove down here that it's going to slide down into, and it's going to hinge against it, and then you latch it. And also don't forget to get your MAF sensor wire, put it over out of the way so it's not going to be in the way when you go to put everything back. So you don't want to bury it and lose it. And don't forget about the tube over in the side over there you got to plug back in also. But as far as putting this back in, that's pretty self-explanatory, so you can do that yourself. If you have difficulties, take it off here and put it in as 2 pieces. Might make it a little easier for you. All right, the way I did it is I did that piece over there first. Then I come over here, make sure I'm lined up on the manifold. So this way I get this put over top of that. So that's good to go now. That just needs to get tightened. And then get your hose down here and get this put back on also. So I got to get the pliers to squeeze this and put it back up in to hold it right. Then we're going to go through and tighten everything down. And then that would be it. Okay, and then simple plug that back in, you can hear it click. And then basically do a once over, make sure you don't have anything that you forgot on this side. Everything's back together. So now the only thing I have left to do is finish up and get the battery box put back in. All right, so we'll move our wires back up out of the way. All right, so now we're nice and open again. So now we got to get this bracket, which actually I'm going to wipe it off before we put it back. Be right back. All right, now I got it cleaned up. When I say cleaned up, I just mean it was wiped up. Basically, I just wiped it up. All right, so now we got to figure out, get this set back in there where it belongs, because there's three bolts up here, 2 down there on the side, which my light doesn't want to cooperate. There's 2 down there, and then there's 1 down in the middle of all this up there in the frame rail. So what we're gonna do first is get these 3 started, get that one started, and then I'll work on these 2. Okay, not really gonna be able to show putting those in down here on the side, but currently I have these and then the one back over here in, so it holds it, but it's just loose and it's sloppy, so I can get down in there and get those 2 back in. So I'm going to start with the bottom one because I actually have to use a wrench to tighten them down, but I'm going to start with the bottom one, then do the top one. All right, got it all in, and now it's time for an afterthought. If I were to have to do this all over again, would I? For myself, yes I would, but would I do it for somebody else for free? Probably not, because it is kind of a pain. The one thing I do recommend is when you're doing any kind of work like this, anything that you touched, go back over and check everything. I actually found one thing that I missed in the video and I can't find it, but there's actually a little one of those push plastic pieces that go in here and holds this together. So I'm going to actually end up getting a different battery too, because I didn't like the looks of it, and it is about 4.5 years old, so I'm going to go ahead and change it out anyway. So when I get this battery, I'm going to go ahead and get another one of those little plastic push clips. But other than that, this is all done. And like I said, it isn't really that bad, but this side especially is a pain in the ass. And I would do it again for myself, but outside of that, I'd have to really think about it. But hopefully you enjoyed. Not trying to give them a plug or anything, but if you get a chance, this set is actually really good. Without this, I probably wouldn't have been able to do those plug changes, but they have them for the different size. These are primarily for Subarus, these 2. Then you have your regular standard too. But between this extension and this, and then the torque wrench, I mean, this whole thing, it should be expensive, but I think we paid like $50 for it. So it's actually a really good deal if you can find one. All right, it's been the next day and we're all complete. Just got a brand new battery in here. So now we're good to go for at least 3 or 4 more years. Hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments,